The important people in my life is my wife, Jen. You know, we've been married now 40 odd years, and our son and daughter. Our son done 30 years in the Air Force and based at Bryce Norton now, and so he's retired and he's got a civvy job still at Bryce Norton. And she's married with, or he is married with one daughter, and we don't see a great deal of them, probably half a dozen times a year, but we speak quite frequently. And we've got a daughter and a husband who we converted a barn for on their farm, and they live there, and we probably see less of them now than what we did when they lived down west. And but that is from the family point of view. But the one that is equally important to me is my dog. It's like having a little bit of string with it, and he is there wherever. And I bought him on trial for 3 months because he couldn't get on with the previous owner, purely because of the previous owner was a Scotsman, and the dog couldn't get on with the accent. And so I had him, and yeah, he's probably spends more time with me now than what my wife does. And he's there with it. He does his job with the sheep, which is one. He will never make a trial dog, but yeah, he is good company, and that is what is important to me. Yeah. First and foremost, with Bill, he's there, and as far as I am concerned, he just lives for me. We've got a little truck that we go around the fields in. He's in that before I am, and he doesn't argue, you know, and so long as he's fed of an evening and he goes everywhere more or less with me around the farm, then he's quite happy doing that. Sometimes when we're sorting sheep out, then he's a bit over keen, but that's not a bad thing. And he's, when we go round to the chickens I collect eggs twice a day, then that's what he's there for. Because at the moment with the avian flu, he just stops them coming out the doors, and then he knows which way I do the huts, in which order, and so he's there always waiting for me. And yeah, and he's good company, and I can talk to him, which I do quite often, not always swearing, but Billy's really good, and yeah, I wouldn't sell him. I felt a few sort of chest pains, which was, I thought, oh no, I hit the wrong thing, or something's disagreed with me, and so I managed to get the sheep back off the cliffs and then into the yard, and by that time the pain was getting worse, and so I put the sheep in the pens, left them there, then I put my dogs away in the back of the Land Rover, so I knew where everything was, and the pain was then starting to get extremely worse, and I thought, you know, something's not quite right somewhere, and it got to the point where I was struggling to stand up because of the pain and get comfortable, and the pain was becoming excruciating. And I can remember now, I thought, who do I phone? Do I phone my wife? Do I phone the farmer? Do I phone the ambulance? And I thought, I can't carry on like this. And so I phoned the ambulance, and on the 3 9s, and I gave them my signs and symptoms. I have done first aid training, so I knew roughly what it was, you know. And so then they said, well, what's the map reference? So I said, I haven't got a clue. And so they said, well, can you give me the name of the farm? And so I said, I can tell you the name of the farm, but there's no sign on the road to say where it is or what it is. And I said I gave them a brief description of my symptoms and also the directions from there. And this pain was gradually getting worse. And so what the lady said on the phone then, she said, leave your mobile phone on, I said, and we will trace you with that. And then it seemed only a very short space of time that the air ambulance landed in the field right next to the buildings. And that was, I could hear it coming in, I could see it. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, and I knew that was there. And then I sort of tended to sort of, I say, lose track of time. But then I can remember being put on a stretcher and carried to the air ambulance, and they opened the back doors, and I went in that way because I didn't know it at the time, but that was the first air ambulance. One thing that did cross my mind was that farming is quite a lonely occupation. You can spend a lot of time not seeing anybody. You know, apart from coming in home for food, that I probably don't see Jen from 7 o'clock in the morning till sort of 5 o'clock at night. And so it is lonely. And it did go through my mind that I'm stuck out on excuse my language, a bloody limb here. And, you know, and that's going to be half hour, 3/4 of an hour. But then I heard the noise of the helicopter, and that was a great weight lifted off my head, because I knew 1/4 of an hour then that I was going to be in the in the hospital, and I know there wasn't a lot of room for the helicopter to land, but they put that down right next to those farm buildings, and my thoughts then, I didn't care. I was going in that helicopter, and it gives you that impetus when I was in and out of consciousness to keep fighting, basically. We live in a beautiful part of the country, and it is double, triple, whatever in the holiday season with all the tourists, and the road ambulances cannot cope. But the air ambulance, and that is the most vital thing for Cornwall and for the residents and for the tourists as well. And it doesn't matter where you come from, whatever. And that is, they are there. The service that you get in Cornwall from that air ambulance is brilliant. And I say to people that without that, I wouldn't be here to tell that story. From the general public's point of view, don't say that you're never going to need it, because you will. There's always that possibility. And I am living proof that it works. It is so vital that the amount of places that farms that haven't got no signs outside the frame, that haven't got a proper sort of procedure if in the event of an ambulance or a helicopter, whatever. And like I said earlier on, a great deal of farmers work on their own. You know, I can go out of a morning or an afternoon, even at home, if it's only 2, maybe 3 fields away. And I won't see anybody for 4, maybe 5 hours. And but my phone is always with me, and I know that air ambulance will respond.